Good afternoon or good morning. Welcome to the U.S. Enterprise Mobility and Security Partner Community Call for March 2017. We are so excited to have you here today. My name is Nick Johnson. I'm one of the community leads here as a part of our partner development team in the United States. I know some of you are coming in from around the world. You're welcome here as well. We're happy to share the information with you. Our goal, of course, here today is to help you build your enterprise mobility and security practices, so hopefully we can be a resource to help you do that. As we get started, I want to remind you of just a few things. Today's call is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation, so if you do not consent to being a part of a recorded call, you should disconnect your line now. You are in a listen-only mode through your web browser, so your audio should be streaming through your PC speakers. If you need dial-in information, I will post that information into the chat window in just a moment. Speaking of the chat window, down in the lower left-hand portion of your browser, you will see a chat window. If you have any questions or feedback today for our speakers throughout the call, you can just post that there, and you will get a response from us that way. The slide deck for today's call will also be made available. I will post that to our community Yammer group, and I will post the link to that into that chat window here in just a few minutes. You'll be able to download that and use that for any follow-up learning that you'd like to do. We will also post the recording of this call as soon as it's available out to our Yammer group. So with that, let me just welcome you today. We've got a great agenda. I've got some announcements, some upcoming training resources that I'd like you to be aware of, things that you as partners I know have been asking us for. So I want you to be aware of those opportunities to sign up for some really great webinars coming up. I'm going to give you a sneak preview of the topics that we're going to talk about on our April call. I think that's going to be a really important set of topics that we're going to cover next month. And then most importantly, we've got a couple of guest speakers from our Cloud Solution Architect role here on our team, and they are going to talk about the Azure AD Connect tool. And if you're familiar at all with setting up an Azure Active Directory or Office 365, and you're connecting it back to an on-premises Active Directory, you know Azure AD Connect tool is a big part of that. So we're going to share some learning about that, best practices around that, and maybe even have a chance to see a demo around that. So we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. Just a reminder, you are here at this Enterprise Mobility and Security community. This is open to all partners, regardless of what segment you focus on or anything in terms of your geography. There are several links you'll see on the screen here. We've got one for our Yammer group. We've got almost 1,000 people that are part of that Yammer group now, so we're really excited. Thank you all for those of you that participate actively out there. Please feel free to post any questions and engage us out there. Also, make sure you hit that Files tab up on the top. You'll see it in the red bar there. We post all kinds of really good information there as well, so make sure you're following that. We've got a couple of blogs that we're posting on a regular basis. Our speakers today have been writing some blogs about the AD Connect tool, so you can find those out there. And then we have a monthly call. You're at the call, so you're aware that this is happening, but we do have an archive of these calls. You can go out to the registration page. You can register for any of the past calls and watch those as well. So if you're interested in kind of catching up on the community, that is your opportunity. Just want to make you aware, Microsoft Inspire, the former Worldwide Partner Conference, has been renamed to Inspire. That is coming here in July. I booked my ticket to this last week. I am really excited to get to spend some time with you all as the partners out there. Don't miss this chance, folks. This is a really great opportunity to come and hear from senior leaders across Microsoft and across our product groups and our business leadership. Really get a good sense of where we're going in the next year and what are the priorities and how are we going to work with our partners to make that happen. I will tell you, last year this event was a complete sellout several weeks before the event started, and we had partners that waited too long and were not able to get in. So I want you to make sure that you're going to get in. And to help with that, today only, I'm not making this up, we are offering a $100 discount off the registration. There's details here, so when you download the slide deck, you'll be able to get to it. Or you can just head over to the Inspire registration site. Make sure you put in that coupon code that's in the middle of the screen there, and that coupon code will take $100 off an all-access conference pass for you. So very excited for that. We're going to try to do some community events out at the conference and make sure we have the chance to meet as many of you as possible. So in terms of announcements, I mentioned this last month that we were going to launch some of the updates to the EMS Everywhere program. I'm not going to go into details on this, but if you are aware, EMS Everywhere is a tool that allows you to go out and engage your customers in a one-day pre-sales, planning, and discussion and a little bit of architecture scenario around EMS. We are funding it at $3,000 a day to go out and do that for the one-day event. There is funding still available. So I know sometimes funding pools start to run out towards the end of our fiscal year. There is funding still available. And best of all, a lot of the content and the training videos and the demos have been updated. So if you're new to this or whatever, you're coming in at a great time. You can see the URL is on the screen there. It's a little bit long, but you can get it when you download this deck as well. So make sure you're taking advantage of EMS Everywhere to go out and drive customer conversations here as we get into our quarter four. A lot of you ask, what are the upcoming learning opportunities beyond just the community, right? There's a ton of stuff going on in EMS. Seems like the products are always changing and adding new features. So we went through and built a list of all the things that have happened recently and that are upcoming. So you can see here on the list, we've got 5 or 6 of them already that have happened in the last month around Intune, Azure Information Protection, ping access, and how that's getting connected into Azure Active Directory, Office 365, and EMS. If you're trying to figure out how do you sell those two things together, there's some great tools there for you as well. And then more importantly, upcoming, we have several webinars in the next couple of months that are going to be available, made available to you. There's some identity solutions. There's some how to simulate cyber attacks with advanced threat analytics, which is a really great solution. And then we've also got some product roadmap type discussions, like what's coming up in cloud app security and what's happening with advanced threat analytics and what's new in there. You can see all the links for registration are on the sides. If you can't make it at that day and time, after the fact, there will be recordings. You go to that same registration link, you'll be able to watch the recording as well. So as soon as you download this slide deck, you'll have access to all these. I strongly encourage you to use these, share these with your teams, and make sure that you're getting as much learning as possible. Coming up in April, you are going to see a pretty big emphasis from us as a Microsoft partner team here in the U.S. focusing on our secure productive enterprise offerings. And a lot of you are starting to come back and tell us, hey, look, when I go out and talk about EMS with my customers, there's a natural connection point to the Office 365 security discussion and a lot of the Windows 10 security discussions. So we're actually going to have experts from the Office 365 side of things and the Windows 10 side of things join our community call, and they're going to share how do those things complement what you're doing in EMS, what can you as partners be aware of so that you can then go take that back to your customers. So don't miss the chance next month to come and learn more about SPE as we call it. It'll be a really, really great opportunity. You'll also see some more coming on this on our Yammer group and via other channels here in the next couple of weeks to really help educate you and help you drive more sales with your customers. The last thing I want to share about is actually a tool called SOAP. And no, this is not for washing your hands. It's actually an acronym for Single Sign-On Access Panel. And SOAP is a tool actually built by some of the Microsoft services teams internally. And we've heard from a lot of you as partners that it's difficult to keep track of all of the B2B websites that you need to sign on to with Microsoft to do your business with us, right? We have over 100 that we know of. I think there's 115 in this tool. So if you'd like to simplify your experience by being able to only have to sign in with one ID and then being able to access all those different Microsoft applications and be authenticated to those, this SOAP tool is going to allow you to do that. So what I'm going to do is later today, I'll post a little bit of an update on our Yammer group. I'm going to put some videos that highlight exactly how this is, how to use it. I'm also going to post this deck, obviously, and if you're interested, down at the bottom left-hand corner of this slide, you will see that there is a new user request form. You just open that up, fill that out, send it in, and we can get you set up in the tool. Here's what's really cool, and here's why I'm sharing this to you. I want to make your life easier, but this is all based on Azure Active Directory technologies. So being able to use this is just another way that you get to kind of help build a proof point for you and for your customers about what's possible with Azure Active Directory. So don't overlook this as a chance to kind of get more familiar with what can be done in Azure AD and be able to show it to your customers should you so desire. So with that, I am going to introduce Travis Gwynn and Edward Walton. And Travis and Edward are cloud solution architects on our partner enablement team here in the United States, focusing on helping partners build their security solutions. And Azure AD Connect is something that they've spent some time diving into here in the last month. They've written a couple blogs, and I'm just excited to have them here to share what they've learned. So Travis, let me welcome you, my friend, and the floor is yours.
All right, let me take over here as presenter and make sure everything's going to work. Hello, everybody. Nice to be online with you today. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a few slides here that talk about Azure AD Connect, what it is, where it's going, a couple of the details. We're not going to get too deep because we could easily spend an entire day just on AD Connect. And I'm sure Ed could probably spend another full day on AD Connect Health. So we're going to start going through this real quick. One thing that I really want to point out and stress, if you or any of your customers are still using Azure DirSync or Azure AD Sync, these are the predecessors to Connect. They are reaching end of support on April 13th. So you've got about 3 weeks. Really want to try to get those things upgraded. The Connect is the new tool to do this, to do all your AD syncing. It's one way, but it's a lot more powerful than the other two. You'll notice the URL listed down there at the bottom of this slide. If you want to take a look at that document there on our new docs site, we'll walk you through a very easy upgrade. It's not very hard. So some of the new features of Connect is we'll allow you to synchronize multi-forest AD environments, provide advanced provisioning, multiple on-premise Exchange organizations if your customers are still using on-premise Exchange. We have the password write-back, and we can also integrate ADFS in this. So the synchronization direction, as I mentioned, is one way. Your on-premise is the authoritative source. So if you delete a user on-premise, AD Connect will delete the corresponding user there in O365. Hybrid environment requires 6 attributes to be written back to the on-premise user objects, and we'll go actually take a look at that here in a few slides. So some of the objects that synchronize, all Active Directory users, they're synchronized as a logon disabled, and your mailbox enabled users, there are synchronized with that enabled. We don't synchronize the built-in administrative user accounts or the groups, any of the system account mailboxes or your dynamic distribution groups. Also contact objects. So if you have some customers have large AD environments where they use the contact objects to be able to have access to users that aren't necessarily users in their domain, so we don't synchronize those. Our security-enabled group objects, and you can see the attributes there that we look at. Also, our mail-enabled group objects don't synchronize. If the object is a conflict, so if the distinguished name contains that 0CNF, we don't synchronize that. Some of the other user objects here, like your CAS or support or MSOL, so these are like built-in filters. You can also some of the mandatory attributes. These are the 6 attributes that we require also to be written back, and that's the CN, the member, the SAM account name, alias, and display name. For synchronization time, if you have an Active Directory, Active Directory with only about 500 objects, your first sync 10 minutes, of Delta sync 1 minute, 15,000, which is probably a lot more common, and you can kind of take these numbers up. But 15,000 objects, first sync can be 3 hours, and then Delta syncs typically are only 15 minutes unless you say you merge and dump another 15,000 objects in there. It might take a little bit longer. And then obviously, depending on your your network bandwidth and such. Those that can also affect that time there. So we can also filter what objects we sync. So I showed you on a couple of slides back that we have some built-in filters, but you can also create your own filters in Connect so that you can sync based on a domain, an OU, or any attribute there. You can use regex in there and actually create your own kind of filters. So, and there's a TechNet article that link, I think it redirects to docs now, but that link will show you the regex and how that can work there to go through and create those filters. So when you create those filters, it's all based on attributes. So you're looking at you could follow along with this. Open your rules-based editor, type your select in from AD user, and edit and create that scoping filter. And you have a drop-down box there with the attributes and the operators, and then any of those users that match the query will sync. So you can really get it pretty granular in there. If you want some more information, more detailed demo of this, I think Ed's going to bring up a demo and actually show you the interface. But we do have a really great Ignite session that's available up on Channel 9, and the URL is listed down there at the bottom of that slide. Ed?
So Travis, there's a couple questions that came in from the audience here, and just a reminder, folks, if you have questions down in the lower left-hand part of your browser, you can submit those on the chat pane. One question would be, if you are, does it have to be an on-premises a Windows Active Directory, or if you're running that as a Windows Active Directory in some Azure VMs, can you also synchronize that over to Azure AD with this tool?
Yes. Yeah, because when you're running it in a VM, I mean, it's whether the VM is on site, whether the VM or whether the domain controller is on site, whether it's a VM in Azure, doesn't really matter. It's essentially your, I don't want to say legacy Active Directory, but it's Active Directory versus Azure Active Directory, so you can absolutely sync those across.
Okay. Second question would be, you showed the little chart of how many objects per hour it typically takes. Is that a very linear chart? So if you want to do 100,000 or 200,000 objects, are you going to do the math on that? You're out at 15 or 20 hours. What does that typically look like?
It's roughly linear. I wouldn't say it's not necessarily a straight line, but it does take it is roughly linear. If you've got 15,000 objects, and you take that up to 150,000 objects, maybe it doesn't take 30 hours, but it's it may be 25 hours. But again, the big thing there is it's going to be a big difference. How much, are you using ExpressRoute? Is your internet, connection, a T1 or a DS3, or is it 2 megs, 40 megs, 100 megs, whatever speed there. So the faster your internet connection, the faster it's going to sync, et cetera. So it's kind of squishy on those numbers. Those are just kind of examples, but.
Okay, great. Last question will be, how many places on premises should you install this, right? Do you install it on one machine, one domain controller?
Just one. And actually, typically don't recommend installing it on a domain controller. It's usually a separate machine.
Okay, so it's a separate machine that's calling in. Can you do redundancy with it if you're trying to make sure you have high availability?
No, it's just the one, and if it goes down, essentially just stand another one back up, and it'll just sync the deltas.
Okay, great. And then one more question that came in. There's a lot of good questions from the group today. Does that Ignite session that you referenced go deep onto the sync rules editor?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look again.
Okay, so yeah, we can check on that, and if it does, great. If it doesn't, we can post a additional video off to the EMR group as well. Perfect. And then just a comment from one of the folks. Thank you for that. That how does the database size impact, and is it important when you're dealing with AAD Connect?
Say the question again, I'm sorry.
So the comment was database size is important for Azure Active Directory Connect. So I'm not sure if that's something you've heard before or if that's...
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay, so maybe the person who submitted that can give us some more details and we can figure that one out.
Yep.
Perfect. Gotcha. Okay, so there's some more comments there. The default database that it uses is the SQL Express. So can you point it at a regular SQL Server database if you want it to be bigger?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great. That's all the questions that are in there right now. If folks have more, we may have you come back on the line. But I think you were going to go ahead and introduce Edward to us.
Yep.
Edward, my friend, welcome.
Welcome. Good afternoon. How's everyone? No answer required. So, everyone, my name is Edward Walton. Can I get a thumbs up to say that you can hear me clearly?
You sound great.
Sound great. So, my name is Edward Walton. I'm a cloud solution architect focused on enterprise mobility and security. The second part of this partner call, we will discuss verifying the health of your synchronization between Azure and on-premise. So I will go through the slide deck, talk about what Azure Active Directory Connect Health is, and once it's in place, how does it help you verify the integrity of your synchronization process between your Azure infrastructure or your Azure AD and your on-premise Active Directory. So what is Azure Active Directory Connect? It is a feature that is installed with AD Connect to verify that your synchronization process, whether it is the default synchronization between your on-premise Active Directory, and if you go into some of the auxiliary or other configuration options between your on-premise and federation, that is an option with AD Connect Health to check those. So what are the features? You are able to use Azure AD Premium Service to monitor certain things about your synchronization between it. So it's monitoring, and you can install this on Server 2008 R2, Server 2012, and Server 2012 R2. And the AD Connect service allows you to monitor it via the Azure portal and a blade that you can snap into your dashboard, and you can also monitor it on premise. These features can be controlled via PowerShell as well as the GUI. AD Connect Sync Agent is your friend. Once you run the AD Connect Sync Agent or the AD Connect setup, it installs a sync agent on the machine that you designated as your server to connect to Azure AD. To go back to what my peer Travis said, you do not want to install this on a domain controller. It can be done. There's no technical limitation to prevent you, but you run the risk of corrupting your NTDS database for some reason, and trying to resynchronize that or fix any of the issues can be troublesome and cumbersome, as well as time-consuming. AD Connect Sync Agents automatically install out the Azure AD Sync engine, and AD Connect can now be AD Connect Health can now be installed as part of the on-premise server installation. Previously, you went into the Azure portal, added the AD Connect Health as part of your Blaze, and turned it on. How does it work? You do have to have certain ports open between your corporate firewall and your Azure infrastructure for AD Connect Health to work. The atypical ports are 443 and 80, but you also need port 5671 to be able to send telemetry, to send logging, and to be able to pull information about the status of your synchronization process and the health of the server that's doing it. So you do have to have 5671 open. Very important. When you have a successful installation of the AD Connect Sync Agent, if you look inside the services that are running, you will see that you should have the AD Connect installed, and you will also see additional icons that represent that you have installed the health feature. And those would be the Microsoft Azure AD Connect Health Sync Agent and the synchronization services. Okay. You can also check inside the registry keys of the server that you use to install AD Connect and the Sync Agent. And if you can see this, you can go through and look at the specific keys, registry entries that will validate that you do have the AD Connect Sync agent and Health agent installed. Once again, installing the Azure Active Directory Connect does not necessarily mean that you install the Health agent to be able to monitor the health of your synchronization infrastructure. And then you'll have advanced scenarios. Some of the advanced scenarios involve testing the connectivity to ADFS, single sign-on, and I'd like to go back and touch base on what my peer Travis said. One of the questions that came from the field, can you install it on multiple servers? Well, the answer is sort of a soft yes and no. There is no direct way for Azure Active Directory Connect to be in a disaster recovery and a true high availability. What you can do is install it on a second server, but put it in stage mode. So the stage mode would see the deltas and the synchronization as part of your organization, but will not do any of the synchronization. Once again, you can install it on a second server. It will not sync, and you must put it in stage mode. If you have a failure by virtue of looking at your AD Health Connect, and you notice that your primary server is down, which should be registered in Azure, you go back, you see if you can recover that server. If you can't, you rerun the Azure AD Connect installation process on the standby server. You take it out of stage mode, and then it will sync the deltas, and now you're back up and running. But there is no automatic feature set or function to do this, which is one of the reasons that you have Azure AD Connect Health. If you notice a problem, that should initiate your internal processes to go back and remediate your sync issues. Key capabilities. You're getting alerts about your synchronization infrastructure and processes, whether that be the atypical one where you're just syncing your Active Directory infrastructure between your own premise Active Directory infrastructure. You're able to use usage analysis analytics to go in and see how often synchronization processes are occurring, and are they in line to what your internal AD infrastructure is. Meaning, if you have a very distributed Active Directory infrastructure and you're making changes, add, move, delete, are these changes being synchronized in a timely fashion? The monitoring performance is key to be able to pinpoint some potential problems in your infrastructure. Possibly knowing what you're looking at can identify problematic domain controllers or synchronization issues or subnets that are dead within your sites and services. And the reporting can get pretty robust if you want to go in and start pivoting on some of the information that you have to be able to have trending and analysis. The business value. This is real-time information and synchronization between your infrastructure on-premise and your Azure Active Directory infrastructure. Near real-time. The near real-time correlates into the time it takes for an automatic synchronization event to occur between your domain controllers and subnets on-premise, as well as the time intervals between AD Connect and your Azure Active Directory infrastructure. You get a single pane of glass by going to your Azure infrastructure and being able to have a one-click, one view about what is going on. And there's no hardware cost if you have additional servers that you can put this on, and this can also be run in a virtualized environment. And it's easy setup. Some of you may have already deployed it, and you can attest to the fact that even the migration process is fairly easy. If you are removing Azure Active Directory Sync and replacing it with Azure Active Directory Connect, it is an in-place upgrade. The one caveat is sometime when you do an upgrade in place, the sync servers may not start. You don't have to rerun the installation process. You just have to go into the service, right-click it, and it'll start. And I've not seen problems reoccur after that has been done. If there aren't any questions, I'm going to go into a very limited demo about what it looks inside the Azure plane. And the questions should be to the moderator in the chat window. With that being said, I'd like to share my infrastructure here. 1 second. And so, When you have your Azure infrastructure and you can add the Azure Active Directory Connect Health tile inside your blade, you can click on this, and the first thing you want to check, or you will notice, that not only do you have the option to do Active Directory on-premise to Azure Active Directory, but if you have federation services that you want to sync, you can also do that. That will probably be the topic of another discussion. You have the status of your Azure AD Connect synced. You can see that it's healthy. In my test domain, it says sync error. That is a misnomer. This is just a tile to say if you did have a synchronization error, it will show up here and increment that number. And you could click on this and then go into the logging and take a look at what the error is. You'll see that I don't have Active Directory domain services running with no results. It is not running inside my Azure tenant. I'm only connected to it. And if you deploy the agent on the servers and you want to do agent auto update, this is where you enable that. So it can sense that you do have it installed and auto update your agents. And the number of users. The number of users, this represents not the users that are being synchronized within your infrastructure, but the person that has administrative control to be able to go and modify your infrastructure as far as your synchronization. So if I was to click on this, I could go in, and you can see that my Azure Active Directory Connect servers are healthy. Metroplex is healthy. It is green. And if you hover over, you can get the nice hand that comes up to tell you. You can click on this and see other stuff. And you can see that the last time I had an export to my Azure infrastructure was 3/23 at 12:03 p.m. That was not more than about 30 minutes ago. And the run latency.
I'm going to jump in. I might have to have you just reshare your desktop. It looks like it kind of locked up for us.
Okay.
So we're still seeing the main home screen of your Azure tenants, and it sounds like you're showing some pretty awesome stuff. So maybe you can just stop that and then reshare it for us.
All right.
Cool.
Please let me know when that
I will do that. I promise not to sing for the rest of you, but if you're on mute, you can just sing to yourself because we can't hear you. So that's all good.
All right. It is saying that it's sharing. Is that what everyone's seeing now? Apologize for the bandwidth issues. You should see it now.
Yeah, we're not seeing it yet. It's still showing just the home screen of Azure.
I will do one more refresh and then we will move on. Be able to take any questions that anyone may have really quick.
Yeah. Be awesome to be able to show this demo. So let me do this. I'm gonna flip us back to our PowerPoint real quick and end your streaming completely, and then we'll flip it back open. All right.
All right, everyone. I don't know if I was forced out or my Skype had an issue. I should be rejoining the call, resharing my desktop. Please let me know if you can see it.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, folks, for the delay.
And I'm actually having an issue with sharing my desktop out, and I apologize for the technical difficulties. Yeah, it's not working. So at this time, unless it remanifests or shows itself back up, I'll take any questions anyone may have from the
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we'll see if it comes back alive here. There's definitely some questions, and maybe you can answer, maybe Travis can answer them. One would be for a partner that's working in a capacity with several different customers. Is there ability to receive health alerts or information coming off the Connect tool and aggregate it together so you can monitor for many customers?
Well, the Azure Active Directory Connect tool allows you to install it, and you can connect to different FARs. So part of the installation, it asks you to choose which FAR/domain. You would have to have a way to aggregate that and differentiate that inside the portal. As far as it's concerned, trying to bring it in and sync between multiple on-premises of different organizations to a single entity in a managed service capacity is beyond the capabilities of this. It's all going to aggregate into a single pane. So you can have multiple forests that have domains from the same customer, but I don't believe you can do it from different forests/domains from disparate customers.
Okay, good. That's good information. How often are updates pushed out based on your experience for the Connect Sync agent? How often are we actually seeing updates from the product team?
Well, the product itself is fairly stable and does not have a tremendous amount of moving parts. So my experience is quarterly, unless there is a major issue or bugs being reported, that you will see some minor updates to the product. And that's generally used to address complex deployment scenarios, on-premise, federation, maybe looking at how to integrate this into some B2B or B2C capabilities.
Great. Next question is, what is the strategy for moving ADFS into Azure Active Directory Connect tool without having to deploy additional ADFS servers? Oop, did I lose you? Oh, we might have lost you there. It looks like you're trying to reshare your screen, so we'll see if that comes back up. So Travis, I don't know if you're still with. Maybe you want to take a couple of questions as well?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Is he trying to call? It looks like Edward's trying to call me.
Oop, did I lose you guys?
Okay, sorry. You guys still there?
We are here. It looks like
That
Skype
was
is
weird.
absolutely going crazy on us today, so I'm not sure what's happening there. So we'll stop trying to share stuff, and we'll just take the rest of these questions here. Apologize to the audience here. Let's see. So one of the questions was for moving ADFS servers or ADFS into the AAD Connect tool. Is there a strategy for doing that without having to deploy additional ADFS servers?
I'm not sure.
Run into?
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't run into that. No. Edward, are you back yet? No, it shows he's in. I haven't run into that. I'm not sure if Edward has.
Okay. Yeah, we can look into that too, and if we find anything, we can post it out to our Yammer group as well. A couple other questions would be, I don't know if this is related to the AAD Connect tool or not, but it's a really good question. Is, do I need to have ADFS to enable the Azure multi-factor authentication as the primary login tool using like the Azure Authenticator app? Essentially removing the password. So to do Azure MFA, do you need to have ADFS?
No, because actually, yes, yeah. So if you're going to do multi-factor with the accounts that are on premise, then yeah. So when the accounts are synchronized up to Azure AD, then you can go into those accounts one at a time or bulk and enable MFA for the different scenarios.
Okay, perfect. That looks like all the questions that are in there right now, and I'm not sure if we have Edward back with us. Are you back with us, sir? Doesn't look like it. Okay, you guys will all laugh at this. He just got automatically rebooted on his PC by Microsoft IT. So, yes, they influence all of us even in the midst of a presentation. So we're just going to let him finish his reboot stuff. I do know that was the demo piece was the last part of his presentation. If you are interested in getting those slides, I posted the link out in the chat window here a few minutes ago. So if you're interested in getting these slides, we'd love to have you be able to download those. And let me just make sure that there's no other information here. Nope. Edward, are you back with us?
I'm back in the call.
You're back, and your demo's alive.
I jumped on another PC.
Oh,
While the security, Microsoft security is very diligent.
All right.
Well,
I'm so glad you're back. So do you want to continue with the demo then?
Absolutely. So apologize to everyone, but updates happen. So The Azure Active Directory tile that you can click on will give you a quick snapshot of the infrastructure and how you have it deployed. If you're looking at my screen, you can see that it does give the option for federation integration if you deployed it and configure it to monitor the health of your federated environment using AD Connect. You can see that in my test environment, I have one directory synchronized. The sync error here does not represent that I have an error, only a reporting pane, and I have 0 here. And I'm not running Active Directory domain services in Azure, so I have a 0 representation here. You also have the ability to auto-update the agent on the machine that you are running Azure AD Connect and the Health Sync agent. And so turn this on if you want automatic updates. I believe the previous question was, how often do you see updates? And I did reply quarterly unless there was a major issue that needed to be remediated. The users pane does not represent the number of users that are being replicated and synchronized. It represents the number of people that have access to modify my Azure AD Connect between my on-premise and Azure. So if I click here, you will notice that you see my test domain here, and you can customize this. You do not have to go with the ownmicrosoft.com as part of your setup within Azure. This is for testing. You also get to see the number of servers that you can use Azure AD Connect. If you install more than one and put it in stage mode, it will not show up here. Unless it's doing an accurate synchronization between Azure and on-premise, it won't show. Once you retire and install another one, it will come up here. So if I click Healthy on the server and it comes over, you get an idea of the last time that my on-premise synchronized with my Azure Active Directory, which was 323 at around 1203. And you can see that this information within the last 24 hours is not super large, and the average time for synchronization hovered around 11 to 12 seconds. Not a very large environment. This is what you can use to get an idea of how long it's taking to synchronize your on-premise from where the identity server or the synchronization server is installed to your on-premise. And there are no active alerts within the last 24 hours. You have the ability to modify going into properties, synchronization, coming over, looking at the properties. It will give you the version number. You can put it on the SQL server if so desired, as my peer said, the sync instance, the sync database name, and the service account. If you forgot the service account that you did this in, you can go here to see which service account you had in Azure to do this and which one you had on premise. If you go to System, you can see the name of the server that is acting as the on-premise server, the domain, the time zone, the last reboot, machine type, and other things that give you an idea of whether your server is properly provisioned and powered to be able to run this. It is not a heavy install. It is fairly straightforward. No synchronization errors, and you can find object status use here by pulling it in. If you have an issue and it says coming soon is the new tenant, you can take this and search for problematic attributes, objects, or things that are causing your synchronization process to fail. Once again, this is to go in and troubleshoot health of your synchronization infrastructure.
So Edward, I have bad news for you. Your demo stopped showing again. So I'm gonna say it's probably just gonna blame it on Chrome because you're using Chrome. We can see your mouse moving around the screen, but we can't actually see the blades building out in the Azure portal. So we won't try to reshare it or anything like that. We'll just go with it here. But I will tell folks, I know you've been working on a blog that we're gonna post that actually covers more of this information, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So be on the lookout, folks. As soon as that gets posted here in the next few days, we will post that link off to our Yammer group so that you can just follow us there, and we'll make sure that you can get the blog entry for this as well. There was a couple more questions that came in that we can take as we start to get wrapping up here. One is it recommended to sync all objects with AAD Connect instead of using the OU filtering? So should you sync them all or should you filter them?
That is a very good question, and it is also I take note of that in my blog. When you're running that, you will get the option to sync some of the default objects. If you're not running a particular workload within your infrastructure, there is no need for you to sync it. I know some people say that I want to sync it because I plan on deploying SharePoint, deploying Skype or other workloads. To keep the synchronization process clean and not sync unused attributes, do not choose them all. Only choose the workloads that you have.
Perfect. You guys mentioned the stage mode earlier. Any special tips for configuring that?
Use the same configuration process that you did for the primary sync server. You will get an option of making the server that you have a stage mode. There's no other necessary configurations that you need. Once it's done, it will go. The synchronization engine will be in place, but because you put it in stage mode, it will not attempt to finish the process and configuring the connection to your Azure infrastructure.
Perfect. And then there was a follow-up to one of your previous comments, and there's not a lot in the chat window here, so we might have to get a little more details. But should you be focusing on users or attributes when you're doing the syncing?
That's a good question. You should be focused on the users that you are syncing to Azure Active Directory so that you have an understanding of which users in your infrastructure are on-premise provision or cloud-only provision. Once you have an understanding of where these users' identity reside, then you can look at the particular attributes. I will make a very, very important point. You do have a lot of options in the custom filter configuration option inside. Unless you are an Active Directory guru, do not modify the attributes that you are filtering out. If you inherently break something, a rerun of the AD Connect tool will not fix it. You will have to go back in and figure out which attributes that you filtered out that cause your on-premise or Azure application to stop functioning.
Perfect. That is all the questions that we have in the chat window. So I'll just wait here and see if anybody has any follow-up questions that they want to post. Otherwise, I'll just close off with a couple of quick reminders for folks, and I see some other questions popping in here, so I'll review those here in a second. Just a couple quick reminders. One would be sign up for Inspire. Don't forget to do that. And then make sure you download this slide deck from today because there are links to a whole bunch of those additional webinars that I highlighted. A lot of those are going to be presented by the Microsoft product teams directly, so that's a great chance to come and hear from the folks that are influencing what's the strategy, what's coming out, and what should you as partners be aware of. But there are a couple other questions that came in. Can you change the filtering rules after you've implemented? Is that going to be a supported scenario? Oh, and it looks like we maybe lost Edward off the. Edward, you're back.
I'm here. I apologize for something's going on my infrastructure. So the question was, can you change the filtering rules after you've run the installation? Yes, you can. You rerun the Azure AD Connect installation, and you can go back and go into advanced filtering, check the box, and it will allow you to go in and do individual filtering of attributes and objects.
Perfect. And then here's a very detailed one. Is it possible through filters to synchronize Exchange-linked mailbox users? By default, the AD Connect tool does not synchronize these objects. So can you create some sort of a filter to do it?
At this time, I don't believe that is possible.
Okay, cool. Great. And lots of advice in the chat window about not using Chrome. So we're just going to put that one out there for you. We'll get that figured out. Maybe there is a bug we've discovered that we can report to the Skype team. That is all the questions that are in the chat window today. Folks, I apologize so much that we did not get that demo working for you quite like we wanted. I do know a lot of that is covered in some of the sessions that Travis linked in the slides earlier from the Ignite sessions last year. So great chance to go and see those as well. And we'll be doing some blogs on these entries as well. So with that, we are going to go ahead and close out the call for this month a few minutes early. Thank you very much for your time, and we will look forward to seeing you next month where we get to hear from our Windows and Office 365 security peers and help you tell that really big picture for your customers. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.